Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Not Just Politics podcast. Today is Friday, November 8th. We are back in the studio today with returning guest, the Pragmatic Nihilist.
Thanks for
Andrew
having
Van
me
Horn,
back.
welcome to the show.
Excited to be here.
How have you been? We've spoken sort of briefly over the last couple of months, but we haven't really had a conversation since last we were
Not
here.
bad, not bad.
How have you been?
Nothing, nothing big this week really happened. Pretty run-of-the-mill week. Yeah, just normal. Same old shit.
No,
Yeah.
it's been uneventful. Um, Donald Trump is the
Yeah.
president.
Well,
Once again, I would like to give a special shout out to Barron Trump for organizing the greatest month of podcasting in the history of the industry. I think he deserves some credit because apparently he was the one that was telling Trump and JD Vance, okay, go do Theo Vaughn, go do Flagrant with Andrew Schultz,
yeah.
go do
Really? It
Rogan,
was all him.
that
It was
kind of
all
stuff.
right.
I don't know if it was all him, but apparently Barron Trump was
I
the
mean,
guy that was doing it.
it's smart.
What do you think about that? Should he be
I
a part of
mean,
the administration now?
there's the whole nepo baby thing, which is kind of rough.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's rough. But then
Rough.
I guess he had Jared.
Yeah.
I guess he had Jared in the last one, and he he did pretty well in the
Yeah,
Middle
that's
East,
true.
I think, right? Didn't he? He was instrumental in that whole business.
I
So
have no idea
yeah,
what Jared was up to. I just know that eventually all of the
yeah,
family is going to
that's
be in
not
positions of
great,
power at
but
some point.
but I could see him.
Well,
Yeah, I could
it's
see him being,
just
like
yeah,
secretary of, I don't know, podcasting. Yeah, yeah,
podcasting. Yeah, the
yeah,
secretary of the press. Anyway, press
yeah.
secretary Barron Trump. How great would that be? Anyway, let's get into this. Were you shocked by this? Were you watching
Yeah, I mean,
live on
it was
election
kind of like the
night?
Super Bowl, like where my wife like has to watch the Super Bowl. I mean, she doesn't have to. I'm not like you watch Super Bowl, but like
Right, right.
yeah, yeah. It was like she wanted to
But it's
watch it,
just
and I
on the
was like, okay,
TV.
well, you watch the Super Bowl, like except I'm gonna count this as like so I don't have to watch like the Emmys or something. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to watch. Yeah, uh,
Right,
it,
right. Yeah, it's a
yeah. It
trade
was. I mean,
system.
it's interesting
You're trading it.
it's
Yeah.
interesting to watch and sort of see the the spin sort of in real time. But honestly, we went to bed at like, I mean, I'm old, man.
Mm.
We went to bed at like 9:30. Like, I woke up like at 4 and I was like, I bet he won. I was like, oh, he sure did. All right, good night. Like, uh,
Right,
yeah, I wasn't
right.
surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, we did it. Yeah. No, I mean I wasn't necessarily either. We did a watch party with the Bridge
Mm,
USA chapter. Shout out to everybody that came out. We had a good time.
yeah.
As good of a time as you can have, I guess, at Point Park with a Trump victory. But this is what it is. I mean, everybody was everybody at the watch party was, I think, what was the media saying? I mean, I can't with the media. They were nauseously optimistic, I think is the language that they were using. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of what people were like at the watch party. And then and then every single swing state went red. There's a very obviously pressing conversation happening right
Yep.
now about why Kamala lost. Have you done any thinking about this? Do you think that because according to the conversations I hear on campus, it was nothing but racism and
Of course.
misogyny that cost Kamala the win. Um, I think to say that that had no part to play at all would be equally
I mean, a
as
little bit. Yeah.
detached
I would
from
say, yeah.
reality. Um, if you had to lay out some of the main reasons in
I
your
mean,
estimation, why do you
this has been
think
my
she
thing all
lost?
along is I think they started losing it on like January 21st or whatever the day after the inauguration last year, or last year, 3 years ago, 3.5, 3.75 years ago, right, in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
They started losing in 2021 because they, look, Trump had been defeated, right? He'd been defeated in the election,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then he had been defeated in his attempt to overturn the
Mm-hmm.
election, right? And so he'd been
Yep.
fully defeated. He was not on Twitter anymore. He was only on Truth Social, if that even existed. I don't even know, but who the hell's on there? Nobody, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he had, he was, it's just Trump. So
Trump.
he was gonna walk off, to lick his wounds. You know what I mean? And they just couldn't leave him the fuck
Mm-hmm.
alone. Like, so they
No.
went after every
No.
J6er they could get their hands on, right? Like, if you ripped a tarp
Mm-hmm.
or something, they were like, "All right, we'll get you." You know what I mean? Like, and like, J6,
Mm-hmm.
like, was eh, I'm not going to say it was this like scary insurrection, but at the same time I'm not going to say that it was like, like just people walking through like they were on the goddamn tour, right? Right? Like they were really like,
Right. Right.
it was somewhere in between, but they like really went after them.
Yeah. Like Right. Someone on campus, I think it was a professor, I forget exactly who, but they were like, if this was
Yeah,
like the amateur hour of
full amateur
insurrection. It's
hour.
like they didn't have a plan
Yeah.
whenever they got in the building. They were just taking selfies at Nancy Pelosi's desk. It's reprehensible. There should be some punishment, I think, if you go storm the Capitol. However, if this was a coup, I
Yeah,
mean,
really. Yeah.
back to the drawing board, folks. You know what my favorite thing is now? This is my favorite thing. And this is being said as a joke. I don't think this is being said with any level of real seriousness among my peers at school. But
Yeah, right.
everybody's like, well, now it's time for liberal January 6th. Like, they got to turn, so do we.
I mean,
And that was very funny. And then one of my coworkers, we were chatting over text, and she was like, I'm just thinking about what liberal January 6th would look like. Like, everybody would
oh
have
yeah.
like the name tag with the pronouns, but there would be like an enforcement of that. And just that thought of
Yeah.
like a strict enforcement of the pronoun name tag during the insurrection. I don't know.
Oh
No
yeah.
one else seems to find that as funny as the two of us do, but that to me is just very funny. Like, somebody sort of standing in the middle of the chaos on a milk crate with a
Yeah.
megaphone, making sure that
Yeah.
people's, and listen, hey, I'm all for using
Yeah.
people's
Oh yeah.
pronouns.
What
I
was
don't care. It's just a
somebody
funny
tweeted
thing to
like it's
think
going to start
about.
with a land acknowledgement, right? Yeah. Or they're going to have
Yeah.
somebody up there
Yes.
just like, remember not to use gendered language. Don't say you guys. Like, yeah.
That's what I mean.
Folks.
That's what I'm
Folks.
saying. If this, if
Right?
there was a liberal,
Yeah.
a liberal January 6th with a land acknowledgement and pro.
Yeah.
Right, but it seems like at the end of the day, Kamala was not able to get people excited enough, I guess, or I don't know exactly what the word is, right? But the
Yeah.
support obviously wasn't quite there because Trump won he won
Yeah.
the majority vote, and he won the electoral college. It seems like and from what I can tell, is not enough of a distinction from the policies of Joe Biden. There was not enough of an attempt to reach out to voter blocks, which the Democrat Party was losing control
Yeah.
of, or losing a hold on, I should say. There was also, I mean, white women were taken completely for
Yeah.
granted by the Democratic Party in this election. What was
Yeah.
it? Like, every voter block moved
Yeah.
red,
I
or
mean,
at least
just
moved
across
to
the
the right,
board.
like every
Yeah.
single one. So it's just very interesting. What do you think is happening here, despite the
Yeah.
media, 24/7 running
Yeah.
insert narrative, right? Whether it's Fox, whether it's, I don't care who it is. Like, when I say the media, people use that, ideologues use the term the
Right.
media, but just to mean the ones that they don't agree with. I mean all of them. They were
Yeah.
running nonstop narratives about how this guy's whatever, he's this, he's that. There was you
Yeah,
know,
I think
and
it's
none of it
yeah.
worked. None of it worked. I think they've lost their grip on
Yeah, I mean, I
of
think,
influence on the American people.
um, it was like, I mean, like I said before, they could have let Trump just like walk off into the sunset, like he was done. Yeah,
Offer
yeah,
him? Did
yeah, right,
nobody
yeah,
offer him a
pull it
reality
out,
TV show spot in
you
Burbank
know, but then
again?
they went after him, and they all they did was reinforce the narrative he'd been
Yeah.
doing all along, where he was, this outsider who's going to drain the swamp and all this business, and they're afraid he's going to drain the swamp, and
Right, which he's still promising, which is
I
the
mean,
funniest
honestly,
thing
like,
ever
yeah, I mean,
because
honestly, like
what are you
the
going to
deep
do?
state stuff, like on the one hand, like the deep state, there's a reason we don't have like political patronage. It's like, my favorite my favorite president, James A.
Mhm.
Garfield, was a big fan of civil service reform. But
Yeah.
they had what was that? The Pendleton Civil Service Act, where it's like, you can't just put in your
Mhm.
people. Like, it has to be merit based, and that's great. Except, there is
Yep.
the other end of it, which is where they're like making these bureaucrats are like making policy because our Congress won't do anything, right? Because they're like, they're
Right.
handcuffed by ideology. um so they're handcuffed to like just making these, just
Yeah.
grandstanding on Twitter and doing these symbolic gestures and whatever. But these so some of that ire against the deep state and everything is well placed, but it's also, we don't want to just have a thing where it's like every 4 years we
Mhm.
replace everybody with, it's people who are loyal to one party.
Right.
you know
Yeah, I was talking yeah, I was talking about that with my history professor. It's like you would never get anything done. Like if you think it's slow now, wait
oh
until you
god,
have to
yeah.
replace the entire bureaucity
Yeah,
every
it's
4 or 8
stupid.
years. It
Yeah,
would
but
be
I mean,
way
yeah.
too
So I mean,
much.
I think there's
Um
legitimate ire like against like the deep state, and I think that the biggest thing that they underestimated was obviously like the economy, right? And you're seeing this like thing, and this is I was watching
mhm.
something before, it was like on College Fix or something, and some administrator out in
Mhm.
Oregon, university administrator out in Oregon is like, you guys go kill yourselves and blah blah blah. And I hope you enjoy your
Whoa.
cheap gas and groceries or something, right? And then like somebody else, I had a
Right,
friend,
right.
from long ago, like on Facebook. I hope you enjoy your cheap gas and groceries. And it's like, dude, like this is like that's the kind of tone deafness that got you in this situation in the first place. Is like people care a lot about
Mhm.
the cost of gas and groceries because they're not rich. like so yeah, they don't
Right.
have
Right.
like they're not like, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is, I mean, not super scientific, but like, you need to have a
Right.
house and
Right.
food before you can like start
No.
talking about these higher level things. And they just completely ignored that and went on
Yeah.
a thing about how it's about reproductive rights. And people were like, who cares? Like they're like, dude, like, what are you talking about? I can't like put gas in my car, like, so yeah, they've
Yeah.
lost, they're beholden to this like
Yeah.
ideology, this like progressive ideology. And I mean, I think there's an element of like self-sabotage there, right? Like, I think there's like, yeah, I think they're like kind of
Sure.
like the progressive project like requires that progressives be the underdog, or be like the
Mhm.
counterculture. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Like
The counterculture
they have to be
force.
like the outsiders. They have to be
Yeah.
the rebel alliance. Like, they can't be the empire, to put it in this,
Yep.
ugh. But but
No, but you know, but you are right though because the sort of mentality, and again, it's I don't think it comes from
no,
a
not at
bad
all.
place. I don't
Yeah,
think any of these people
yeah.
are bad people. I'm friends with some of them. I like most of them, but there is that sort of mentality that you have to be
Right.
like
Exactly.
always a
Yeah. And
revolutionary, like always, and it's like you can't always be the
mhm.
guy fighting the empire 24/7. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem
At some
to
point you
work
beat
that
the
way, and
empire, and then
and the
what are
one
you
thing
going
I
to do? You have to lead, and you have to
yeah
do stuff. And you have to, Yeah, and you know,
and
you
transition.
can't just be
Yeah.
the rebels all the time. Like, you know, eventually, and they did become the empire. I mean, they did. Like, they are the you know, progressive ideology is the dominant ideology in terms of like our culture, right? Like, you know, like 2020, that wasn't like a an
Hmm.
uprising. That was like a debutante ball for the you know, like, we will make you sit through
Right.
this teach-in, and we will, you know, destroy your we will get you
Right.
fired from Home Depot, you know, if you don't like say our thing. And like,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, like, yeah, you guys did it. Like, now you got to actually do something, you know, you got to actually, you know, put into, you know, and they, you know, that can't be the
Right.
case. And Trump makes them money, dude. Like, Trump
Hmm.
is like, you know, that's why they couldn't let
Oh
him go.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. That's what I was saying during the actual. Right. That's what I was saying, that during the actual when we were watching the votes come in, obviously you're a news anchor, you have to sit at the desk, you have to be professional, you can't have a meltdown even if you don't like the result. But the one thing I noticed was that across the board, even as it was sort of shaping up that Trump was going to win in what was basically a
Yeah.
landslide. I mean, 7 states all going, all every swing state, that's a landslide. So, and I just thought, these people are completely unaffected by what happens, like completely unaffected. Like the apparatus that they are in is dying. The only thing
Yeah.
that has really kept it going is Trump. So whether or not if he wins, Fox News and Breitbart and the Daily Wire get 4 years of look at how great this guy is, look at how much better things are. Every source on the left gets to rail against this guy. The
Yeah.
devil is
Yeah.
back in the building for 4 more years, and he 90% of their headlines or whatever. And so I just thought that struck me, and it's maybe not like it's not a groundbreaking point. It's kind of obvious, but I was thinking like you get completely unaffected. The
Yeah.
people in the media are completely unaffected by what happens in this election. And another thing I thought was interesting, which is maybe a reflection of one of the reasons why Kamala lost, was because immediately the day after, and I'm sure you saw a little bit of this, maybe, but the day after, the social media was full of posts. And I think this is actually the correct mentality to have. So I'm not even really critiquing the mentality behind this. The mentality was like, okay, now we lost. Now we have to look out for each other. We have to take care of the people that are going to be affected. We have to stand strong in the face of this and all that. And I'm like, that's great, right? Like, there are probably groups of people in this country that will be negatively impacted by a Trump presidency, and that's not right. But and so there were hotlines going on. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't mean to be that guy, but what about the hotline for people in deindustrialized, opioid addicted towns all across the state of Pennsylvania, all across upstate New York? What about the hotline? What about the lifeline to
Mhm.
all of the people in rural Appalachia that the Democrat Party has completely and yes, a lot of them are white and they're poor and they're white, so therefore they don't get included in the conversation. But a lot of this election did feel like a class struggle. It felt like there was the billionaire that was running for
Sorry.
president and all of those, very wealthy people that ran on GOP tickets, like Dave McCormick, who is somehow now the senator
Yeah.
for my state. But it just does seem like, where was that stuff? Where was the hotline? Where was that outreach towards disaffected young men who
Yeah.
voted in
Yeah. I
mass
mean,
for
there's
Trump in
yeah.
this election? So it just feels like there's just such a disconnect. Like this world that was created. And listen, it's the Republicans do the exact same thing too, because the good old days,
Yeah.
when?
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
whom? Like, for which group
Yeah.
of people are we talking
Yeah.
about the
Well,
good
and it
old
was a
days?
very
Because it
narrow
wasn't.
set of like the, you
So
know,
I
when they
just
say
don't
like,
know.
oh,
It
it was
just
only good for
seems
white
like,
people. It was good for a narrow set of white people. Like, it was, you know what I mean? It was, and yeah,
right, right. It
and
wasn't even good
you
for
know,
all
this
of
is
them. Right.
yeah, as a Appalachian American, you know, yeah, they've ignored Appalachia for
Oh,
oh, back.
we
Oh,
lost. Oh,
oh, I
okay, you're back. Sorry, we lost you for a
yeah, so
second.
like
You're back.
as a Appalachian American, I will, they've ignored like
Hmm.
Appalachia, they've ignored the Rust Belt. Like that was Hillary's problem in
Yep.
2016, was she didn't go to Michigan, right? She was, like, yeah,
Right.
like what the hell are
She
you
didn't go to
doing? You know what I
Wisconsin
mean? Like
either,
this,
right?
these are the places where like, white working class people are still a big voting bloc, and you need to get that if you're up in the the Rust Belt and places like that. And it's a bad look. To just focus on things in such a race driven way, especially for people who really don't
Hmm.
feel like they
Yeah.
are like racist anymore. Like that's like there's, I mean, I knew people who were racist when I was growing up, like in Virginia and stuff, you know um but
Hmm.
there are also just a lot of people who are like just regular old folks, and they are they do
Hmm.
follow this sort of colorblind ideal, right? Like they really don't like discriminate against people, and they
Hmm.
really don't feel that way. And then to cast them all as these bigots and whatever,
Hmm.
that's been a major, like a major problem for, they're just appealing to this very, again, they're now appealing to this very narrow set
Hmm.
of
Yeah.
white people, white educated people, and that's, it's
Yep.
not going to get you very far, excuse me, when it comes to winning elections. Um, yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
that's the deal.
um.
And I mean, men too, right? Men are less likely to get college degrees than women. They're falling behind in school. Like there's all
Yep.
kinds of stuff about, yeah, there's all this, like,
Yeah.
they're
In many
more likely to
areas.
commit suicide and deaths of despair and all that kind of stuff. Like, which, yeah, like it's hard for men. And, it's like, not that it's not hard for women, and it's like, and of course the thing is,
Yeah.
oh,
Right.
let
Yeah.
somebody
That's.
think of the
I
men. But
mean,
like, yeah, dude, like
it's hard to
somebody's
be
got to think of the
everybody.
men, like, or else they're not going to vote for
Yeah.
you. Like somebody was thinking of the men, and he got
Yeah.
all the votes. Yeah, like,
Voted for him. Yeah. Yeah. Something Dave Chappelle said. He goes, he goes, I know that it's not easy to be somebody
yeah,
because it's not
yeah,
easy to be
exactly.
anybody.
Yeah,
Like it's not easy to be anybody here. And that was the one thing I was trying to find it just quickly on my phone. I'm sure that you saw it because you read the Free Press. I see that
oh, yeah,
you like their posts on Instagram and at least see what they do. Something that was interesting I saw this morning. I don't know if it was posted this morning, but I saw it this morning that said, "Hey, if you spend all of your time telling young men that everything that they do is right-wing
yeah,
fascism, what do you think they're going to
yeah,
turn into?" Like if you spend all this time telling Trump supporters that they're Nazi scum, I had a
yeah,
professor. I won't name drop or anything, but I had a professor call all Trump supporters terrorists in class and then move on. So when you spend 4 years or
it's
6 years or however long it
it's a
is
decade
telling
at this point.
half of your
Yeah,
fellow countrymen, and a part of that was young men, right, that everything that they stand for and everything that they are doing and the reason why they voted for this guy is because they voted for hate and they voted for racism, they voted for all of this.
yeah.
What do you
You're just,
think you're
I
going
mean,
to do to
that's,
those
yeah,
group of
that's,
people?
yeah, yeah,
You're going to turn them, as Tim Dillon said, stop
yeah,
telling everyone that voted for Trump that they're Nazi scum
yeah.
because that's going to turn
Yeah.
them
Well,
into Nazi scum. It's what it's going to do.
like that's the worst thing you can call someone, and in the contemporary America,
Yeah. A
yeah, and
terrorist
like a
is
racist, like
crazy.
that's because they're the because progressivism is like the dominant thing. Like you can't, if you call someone a racist, like that's a real like insult. People take that as an insult. Like, I'm not racist. Like, you know. Oh, I mean,
I
no.
mean, I don't take it as seriously
At
anymore.
first, yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
but no,
yeah,
right, but
right, yeah,
in the ideal world,
and
that should be a very
yeah,
serious
in
accusation.
2004,
It's I
it
don't
was a
take it so
serious
seriously
insult,
anymore.
right? That was a serious, like,
Right.
it's in 2009 even. It was pretty much a serious insult. And then like somewhere around 2015, suddenly it became like it was just like, well, everybody, you're a racist, and it was that, concept creep of like, white
Everything
supremacy. Like it
was.
stopped being like real white supremacy,
Yeah.
which is just like, what, 50,000 people total or something. Like, yeah, yeah, clanhood, real shit, like
Clan
real,
hoods
like,
type stuff.
hanging around, yeah, the shack out in the woods talking about how the Jews run
Uh-huh.
everything and bullshit, right? Which I can do that voice because I'm an Appalachian American,
And it turned
right?
into
But yeah, so I can, like,
right.
I like hanging
Right.
out in the woods, but not doing that stuff. But right, right,
Right.
but
Right. Yeah.
but like that's the real like white supremacy. And then we concept creeped it out, right, until it was like, everything was being, demanding that people be on time for work,
Yeah.
white supremacy and all this. And
And now it's and then it was Jenny
oh
Slate
yeah,
voicing the
yeah,
character of
yeah.
Missy on
Oh
Big Mouth. Do you remember that one? That
yeah.
one, and it was like,
Yeah, and it's,
what?
and the thing of that where
Um,
it's like she's Jewish and black, but then the black thing trumps the Jewish thing, and then the right, and it's like there's, yeah, that's a like moral
yep,
hierarchy you've
yeah.
established, and but you
As
refuse to like, acknowledge, like it's
yeah.
ridiculous.
What is Kurt Metzger? The comedian Kurt Metzger calls it an intersectional car crash.
Yeah,
That's what we
yeah. I
have on
mean,
our hands
with
there. We have an intersectional car
the
crash.
men thing, it was like, who was that guy? I can't remember who this comedian was. My wife sent it to me, and he was just talking about like, you've been calling men like, it's, toxic masculinity, all this. And he was like, the Harris campaign's outreach to men was like, like an undercover cop being like, do you know where, where I could buy some dope? You know what I mean? It is like exactly that, like that commercial where it was
Yes.
like, I'm man enough to
Yes.
whatever this and that. And I was like, is this real? Like, is this a satire? Like, is this a SNL skit? And it wasn't. It was like a real commercial. But that guy's like, I can bench 500. I was like, you damn sure cannot. Or no, no, you could deadlift 500. He said, okay, oh, yeah. You still damn sure can't. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, I was just like,
Yeah.
that dude doesn't deadlift
Yeah.
five
Yeah.
bills. Like, I know
Yeah.
for sure. Like, get out of here.
No.
And yeah, it's, and then what was it? Tim Walls playing Madden with AOC, and the dude was like, "Who's that for? Like, who the hell is that for?"
Wait. Wait a minute.
Yeah, Tim.
Wait.
Oh yeah, did you miss?
Tim,
Oh man, you. Oh
are you
yeah,
serious?
Tim Walls and AOC on Twitch playing
So wait,
Madden,
so I have to stop you. I have to.
and then afterwards, oh
So
yeah, oh she
AOC
never
is
stops,
still
man.
streaming on Twitch?
Oh no,
I
she's
thought that was a
always on Twitch.
2020 thing. So AOC is an elected official.
She's
She's
playing
streaming
Madden
on
with
Twitch.
Tim
She's
Walls.
playing Madden. So you're right.
Yeah,
That really was like their outreach towards young men.
yeah,
It's like, hey,
and
Tim
like
Waltz is
two
playing
dudes
Madden on
tuned in,
Twitch.
and they were just like, "Oh, this sucks." Like,
So wait a minute. So what is everyone going after Trump for being like, why didn't you whatever going on all these
yeah, yeah. I mean,
podcasts
yeah,
if
the that I
whatever.
mean that was the most
Um
like 21st century thing.
did you see this, Gavin? Did you see AOC playing Madden with Tim Walls on
Yeah, that was the
Twitch?
most like 21st century media thing that they did the whole
I had to
time,
watch that
right?
tonight.
Oh,
Were
I
they
didn't,
good? Were they at least good at the
wasn't for
game?
me.
Is AOC nasty at
Dude,
right? I
according
just want to know
to
if
according
AOC's
to Tim
gotten good at
Walls'
Madden yet.
Twitter, she runs a mean pick six. This is a disaster all around. Like you guys,
Is this in the middle? Is this
yeah,
in the
this is
middle
like,
of the election that
yeah,
is the
this
savior
is
of
football
democracy and
coach Tim Walz
civilization? This
runs a
is in the
mean
middle
pick six. I mean, that
of,
was the October surprise that they were waiting for. Was that he's like doesn't know?
but
Yeah, he doesn't know what the
oh,
hell
you're a
a pick
good. That's a
six
good
is,
point.
apparently, right? Like what, dude? Like, yeah, yeah.
It,
So solid.
I voted for Joe Biden. I don't know if I told you this, but I voted for Joe Biden on November 5th
Oh, you mean
because
you
I
mean
still
this
believe in
year?
him, and other
You
people don't. and I think that's wrong. Yeah, yeah. I mean, 2 days ago, 3 days ago,
Did you
I
really
voted
write him in?
for
You
Joe
wrote him in,
Biden
Joe Biden?
in the polls
Oh,
because I
I
still
was like,
believe in him.
that's
No, I didn't.
awesome.
I wrote. I did
Okay.
write in. I
Yeah.
did write in Andrew Yang.
Oh, okay.
That
Solid.
is a serious thing. I did write in Andrew Yang, but I did not actually. But
Mm,
that's what I've been telling my progressive friends. I was like, well,
yeah.
I did
Like I
my
voted for
part. I
Biden.
voted for a Democrat. It was Joe
This is
Biden.
symbolic.
I still believe in him, and people, and I think that's wrong. It is symbolic. It is. It's a,
Oh man.
um, the one thing Gavin and I have been talking about this like crazy, the demonization of third party
Hate it
voters.
so much.
It's enough now. It's got to be done because someone did the math, and Kamala gets every third party vote in every swing state. She still does not win the election. So anybody out there,
Don't
don't
demonize
demonize third party voters,
non-voters.
please.
This
Please
is
don't,
I mean,
because
I went on a Substack rant about this, but
yes,
like
thank you,
uh
thank
like
you.
non-voters, like we need to start taking like the non-voting and the third party voting block, not not as like they're being lazy or they're apathetic or they're self-interested, they're interested in some niche
Mm-mm.
party bullshit. Like that is, the thing is like when the president wins the majority of the vote, right? Like he or she wins the or they wins the majority of voters vote, right? And so like when people are like out here, like they're like, half the country voted for like homophobia and white supremacy and blah blah blah. I'm like, no, they didn't. They actually didn't. Like they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Half the like a third of a
No.
little over a third of the country voted for Trump, and a little under a third of the country voted for Kamala, like whatever the math is, probably that's probably the math, I'm guessing, right? And then about a third of the country just didn't vote for
Mm-hmm.
either of them because they thought they sucked or they didn't do the job. Like it's their job to get those people to vote for them. Like it's not our job to go to the poll. It's not our duty to go
Yeah.
to the polls and pick whoever sucks less. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
your job to make it like
that's an
that it's
interesting
really
point.
important that
Yeah.
you vote for me because I'm going to like really do something for the country. I'm going to help. You know what I mean? Like it's their job to do that. And if people
Right.
reject what they say, that's like so you can't say like, oh, Trump has like a mandate, or you couldn't say like, what's his name, Biden has like a mandate or whatever. Well, every president has a mandate
Mhm.
technically based on by yeah, but oh
Biden and
yeah.
Trump had a mandate according to all those AI things I was seeing on social
Yeah, that
media.
is a mandate.
They're
Yeah,
having a mandate.
yeah,
That's a mandate right there.
yeah.
Trump
They
and
were.
Biden.
There's
They were
that was
missing
after
each other.
golf or whatever. But yeah, man, it's like it's no,
I know.
but it's like, dude,
Sorry, I didn't mean to
that's the
carry
thing.
on.
Like no president has like until you get like an actual majority of the voting age population or the eligible voters or whatever, like you don't have a mandate. Like you have to do
Mhm.
you're not like the king. You don't get to like just like issue decrees. You don't get to go around like pushing your
Yeah.
platform without any regard for anyone. Like that's the thing, is like those votes aren't for whoever, right?
Mhm.
And it's stupid too. It's like yeah, like I don't
Yeah.
owe
You're
anyone
not
my
owed
vote. Like I
anything.
don't owe Kamala Harris my vote just because she sucks less than Donald Trump. Like
No.
fuck you. Like,
Nope.
yeah, like I don't owe anyone a vote,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
that's
right.
it's
Right.
ridiculous. And if yeah, and if we did things
You
like that,
earn
if
my
we did
vote.
think of it as like there's this blind, like you just got a plurality, you didn't get a majority, right? If we did think of it that way, which the parties don't want to because they want to claim a
Mhm.
mandate every time that they win, right? But if we thought about it that way, well, then there's a lot less reason to like be pushing, consolidating presidential power because you don't have the permission, you have the
Yeah.
begrudging permission of two-thirds of the country to like, be the leader. Like, and with, you know, legitimate suspicion. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's
Mhm.
America, baby. I
Yeah.
don't want anybody to, you know what I mean? Like I don't want I don't I don't give Donald Trump any more permission than I would anyone else. I'm suspicious. I'm super suspicious of him or anyone
Right.
that wants to be president. What are you doing over there? What's up?
Yeah.
Yeah, what the fuck's your deal? Like,
Yeah, right. As as Jerry Seinfeld said, um, it's a job
yeah,
that like nobody should want. It's like you're a crazy person to think that the the most powerful person in the world with the
yeah,
nuclear
right.
codes kind of sounds
I
like
mean,
you a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of
maybe,
um
maybe a little bit. Maybe I'll do
okay.
it. I'll do it.
So many things here. So many things.
If you guys really want, if everybody really wants, I guess I'll do it. Fine.
Right, right. Um, what did you think about? Because everyone in this country knows, I think, and knew previously, but definitely they know now that the Cheney family cares very deeply about the American people and their best interests. And Dick Cheney has the gravitas that I think is necessary to really. I thought he was going to be enough to really get things going. Why do you think that the not only the acceptance of Dick Cheney's endorsement, but like but like touting it
Yeah.
on stage, bringing him on the campaign trail? Why do you think that was the best decision that Kamala made
Like
during
honestly,
this
like
election
I
cycle?
wanted, I mean, Dick Cheney is kind of a 4D chess evil genius type. You know what I mean? Like he's very like, this is a real terrifying sort
He
of
is.
like. Yeah, he's like
He's a
yeah, like
shrewd
I would not
man.
want to like, I don't know if he has daughters, but I'm, glad that I didn't marry any of them. Um, and
Right.
yeah, right. Like he
Yeah, I'm
just
glad that
seems
you're glad that you're
like a
not
scary
related to
dude.
him.
Like yeah, he sleeps in a man-sized safe. You know what I mean? Like, or just yeah. He just has like he just has like
That's
dossiers on
brilliant.
everyone. It's
Yeah.
very weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, which is like, so part of me is sort of
Yeah.
like, did he want Trump to win? Like he had to know, like right. But then part of me is like maybe he's
Right.
yeah. But then a
Right.
part of me was
That's
like
kind of what
maybe
I
he's like
think in
so out of
general.
touch that he really thought like, hey, like everybody will be like, oh shit, like even if Dick Cheney. You know what I mean? Like maybe he's just too, but I don't know, man. Like of all the people, like maybe the other
I
people
so
who
here
did it, like all those
he,
generals or whatever, and the like, um, I mean, whoever else came out in support of Kamala, from whatever other neoliberals.
it there
Um,
was it was yeah, I was going to say it seems like I mean Dick Cheney's in the back pocket
yeah,
of
he's
the
not even in the
military
back
industrial
pocket. He's the
complex, is
watch
he
pocket. He's
not?
like
Like
he's
was
the
this guy
spy.
not the
Right? Like he's the
right
zipper. He's protect.
right.
Yeah, man. He's
Sure. That's a great
holding it
point.
down for the big dick of America to fuck the whole world. Like he's
Right. Right, exactly. And it does this is a point that was made uh, on the Tim Dillon podcast with JD Vance, which I did think was a good interview. Um, that whatever you want to call it, you call it like Cold War liberalism, maybe the idea that America needs to be the world police force, that we need to be an empire forever. And there's an apparatus in this country that has been built to
mm-hmm.
sustain that ideology. It and Dick Cheney, I think, this is what I think. Dick Cheney represents that system coming into the public eye to oppose a candidate that has a very isolationist policy, except really for Israel. But even Trump said, like, you have to get
Yeah,
that conflict. You have to end it. And, he did the thing with the Abraham Accords,
yeah.
which,
That was Jared.
who
That
knows,
was
maybe he
Jared.
makes another run at that now that he's back in
Jared
office.
did work on that.
Uh, right. That was, and Hunter Biden collaborated together on that project. I voted for Trump and Hunter. I voted for a Hunter presidency, a Joe Biden vice presidency. But anyway, no. I think Dick Cheney is just kind of the puppet for that system. And he's coming out to play because Kamala Harris's foreign policy was, I
to whatever
think,
extent
more catered
she had any
around
sort of policy
foreign
in general,
aid.
there was she was
Right. There was not much distinction between her and Biden's. But again, Biden's policy was centered around foreign aid, getting involved, that kind of thing. It's just very strange that you would not only accept the endorsement of not only a neocon, but probably the single most destructive elected official in the history of the country. I mean, I don't mean to use that language to seem extreme, but genuinely, at least as far as vice presidents go, he's up there
and all
for
that
one
business,
of the
like,
most
this
destructive.
was, that was stuff that we were, protesting 20 years ago.
It was the most transparent
it was,
bullshit of all time. They didn't even, from what, and I wasn't conscious, I was still just a child, but from what I understand, they didn't really try to hide
it was
this.
no, it was out there. I mean, his connections to Halliburton, his whole thing, like it was all out there. Yeah, it was all out
Being the
there, and like
CEO.
and Halliburton had exclusive contracts and all that kind of stuff, and of course all his buddies, no bid contracts, and all
No
his
bid.
buddies are, his other contractor buddies, that he wants to, get involved in whatever, and the whole thing was on, these ridiculous, trumped up premises with the yellow cake and all that business, and and yeah. And
no pun intended.
And he was he was just, and the thing is that they won in a sense, like liberal, like the liberal actual liberalism sort of won in a sense that we started looking at that, and people across the board were like, that shit's creepy, like we don't like that. And that's, that sort of populist, that sort of populist like drive to say like there shouldn't be like an entrenched like system where we can like wage a war and then you can make $1 billion. Like that just shouldn't work. And yeah.
Right, yeah,
It's
and
the
so craziest business we invented.
Why would you bring that? Like you have to know, and this is where they just don't have the like. This is where I think it comes back to like them not having like the media savvy. Like they're just not 21st century media savvy for whatever reason. I don't understand it. Like they're supposed to be all the young people or whatever that were into Kamala, but they were just like, it's like they had never seen. Like they had never seen a goddamn podcast. Like they had never seen who's that Navy SEAL guy? What's his name? Sean Ryan. It's like they had never seen a Sean Ryan reel or something before. You know what I mean? Just here, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah,
like people don't like Dick Cheney. He sent their buddies to get their faces burned off.
Right. And he set up the isn't it still to this day the largest domestic spying operation like ever? Like that was one of them, the labyrinth of torture prisons overseas that we set up and all these things. And so, and here's where I start to have a little bit of fun. I think that he was not only a puppet for the military-industrial complex coming out to try to get Kamala in office. I think he's also, because this is America, he is coming back in 2028 as a full-on Democrat. I'm making this prediction right now. Dick Cheney throws his hat in the ring as a Democrat in 4 years. He will come back. All of these people, Bush, is Donald Rumsfeld still alive? They will all come back. I predict this because no one goes away anymore in this country.
That, I mean, honestly, like 5 years ago, I would have been like, ha 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 ha, and now I'm just like, yeah, dude, that's probably, I would maybe.
Right. Because otherwise, because here's genuinely the thing. Yes, I do believe that he's like the puppet for that industry or whatever. But otherwise, why would you come back? Because if you're going to be the guy for the military-industrial complex, that could be anybody. You could have picked anybody. Like, maybe he's like Dick Cheney because of name recognition. Right, he is the embodiment of that industry.
he's like the nexus of it, where it like combines into its most powerful form or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. And it's Dick
yeah.
Cheney. I like that.
Yeah,
Christian Bale is Dick
he's
Cheney
like
in that
a
movie Vice. He was brilliant.
manifestation of it. Like
Um,
it's otherwise this like like formless entity. You know what I mean? But he like manifests from time to
yeah.
time. Yeah, that's why he came back.
He's
It's just
got
like
bullets
yeah, yeah. He just like it was like all of a
running through
sudden they
his
were like, oh man, we
veins.
need to form Cheney again, and then they were just like did like a right out in the woods, and then he came up out of the ground like and yeah.
Oh, I was thinking they would press a button and a
Oh
bunch of
yeah,
energy would just
yeah.
go into a
That
tube,
yeah. I don't
and then
know. I
there's a
think
bright
yeah.
flash of light, and then Dick Cheney steps out and he says, Iran has weapons of mass destruction. Go.
It's just yeah.
We must go to war with Iran.
Yeah,
You
he's
know what I mean?
yeah, they call him out, Dick Cheney. They break out the lesser key of Solomon, and they just they light they
That's a
light all the
key of
candles,
Solomon. Yeah.
yeah, and they're like,
No, you're right.
behemoth,
I'm thinking you're you might be right about this.
Mm,
I'm thinking more of like a
mm.
technological
Oh, I think they do it in
process,
the
like
basement of
in
the
Area
Pentagon. It's
51.
all
Raytheon has
computerized, you know
some
what I mean?
kind
Like
of
the chants are all computerized. It's done by like AI. It's
right.
done by like robots now. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
it's
yeah,
the
yeah,
it's the
yeah,
AI
yeah,
voice on
yeah,
TikTok
yeah. It's
that
like
goes, "Let's
we're
summon
summoning Dick
Dick
Cheney,
Cheney."
behemoth, and Azazel.
Yeah, click for, and it's like a Food Network thing. It's like you click for the recipe. The recipe is like 18 F-16s, a couple of nukes, a battleship,
Yeah,
a cruise missile, and
yeah.
it's like you have to,
Then you
and a
make a
couple of
circle on the
circuit
floor, and
boards,
then
and then you put all that
you put
together, and
like a
then
chili pepper. You put a lit firecracker inside a board, and then you cover it up with something, and then
yeah,
whatever it is. Yeah, there's or like
and then there's an explosion,
yeah, you bring a calf
and then he
without blemish.
pops
You
out.
just bring a calf or something, or a goat or something. Yeah, it's the whole real deal.
Right, and then he pops out and he goes, you know, the people the people of Russia, they don't have reality TV. They don't have shopping malls. They don't have condos. They don't have any of that. And that's why I think it's important that we support the people of Russia. And then we're off. He'll be the guy that like points, like Dick Cheney is the guy that
Yeah,
points in the direction of the
yeah,
battlefield. You know what I mean? Like when they're launching the ships off and there's just a guy that just point, like Bill Burr, the bit where he's like, if you're the guy that just points,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Dick Cheney would be that guy. He'd be like, and this is where you have to go to war now that I've sent you to. Um, do you think, so, but in all seriousness, do you think that they're going to run Kamala again in 2028? Or is
I think
her
she's
political career
done. I
kind of
mean,
over?
that was. I mean, the vibes didn't work. Vibes.
Mhm.
Campaign didn't work, and
No.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
that's what it's all about
yeah.
now. That's the only thing that matters. A friend of the show, Christian Gretzky, said that. He goes, cringe is the only real detriment to your campaign at this point. He was like, if you want anybody to support you,
Mhm.
you cannot be cringe. If you are cringe, you will be
Yeah.
ridiculed. It will be over for you, which is kind of surprising considering I don't know how he might. And I thought he was right about this, but Elon Musk was also jumping on
Ye-
stage at a Trump rally. That
It
to me, I
was.
thought is at the same time, it is one of the greatest photos of American political history, I think, at least of my lifetime. It goes in the greatest political photos of my lifetime, last 20 years. That one goes in there. That one goes there right next to the video of George Bush hitting the golf drive that I reference all the time when he goes, I call on every nation to fight terrorism. And he goes, thank you. Now
Oh
watch this
man,
drive. And
no,
then he
I don't
just
know that
smokes
one.
one down the
What?
fairway. Have you not seen this video?
Man. Okay.
Oh my God. Okay, I'll send it to you after we're
He's
done
just
here. I
like
wish I could
at
pull
the
it up, but
he's
it'll
just
mess
at
with
the
the
driving range or something,
mess
or
with the
like
cameras.
he's at the golf course.
No, no, I mean he's at the course and the press shows up and he walks to the camera and he goes, I call on every nation. He goes, we must stop these terrorist killers. He goes, I call on every nation to fight terror. And he goes, thank you. Now watch this drive. And then he just tees off. He just sends one right down the
That's
fairway. I
amazing.
can't
That
believe you
is
haven't seen this video. It's
amazing.
my favorite
Yeah.
video. But anyway, It's
The
incredible,
vibes
but
weren't there,
you're right. The vibes
and
were not
there were the cringe.
there
There was a lot
apparently.
of cringe. There was much cringe, and they didn't
Yeah.
that. I mean that what was their Zoom call with uh Ben Stiller and David Hogg, who's just like the most sanctimonious jerk off, and they and they just that's cringe town, like just everything's cringe, and yeah.
It reminds me of like when Zelensky did that Zoom call with Ashton
Oh yeah,
Kutcher and Mila Kunis. Do you remember
vaguely
that? Like
familiar.
in the
Yeah,
like this was like whenever the war had
yeah.
the war was fully a thing, and he was like doing podcasts and he was going. Who was it? Did I think Amy Schumer tried to get
Oh
Zelensky
yeah,
like
yeah.
on the
He
Emmys
didn't he
for like a
he
thing,
popped up
and
at
they
like the Golden
declined that.
Globes or something though. It was just like, hey, give me the money. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it was all
yeah.
thing. I don't want to
Yeah.
open up that can. I don't want to get into Zelensky and Ukraine because there's other things, but it's
Yeah.
just kind of a
Yeah, so I think
similar
she's, I mean, I don't think
situation.
she'll be back. I think they have to go, and if they want to win, yeah, well they have to, number
They have
one,
to
they have
get
to
Dick
get Dick
Cheney.
Cheney. They might try.
They might actually be trying to run
It
Dick
might,
Cheney.
maybe.
I mean, who do they have? Who do they
I
realistically have in
mean,
4 years?
I
Who
don't
do
know.
they have?
What's his
Who do they
name?
got?
Shapiro from Kentucky. Josh Shapiro.
Josh
Was he
Shapiro,
governor of Pennsylvania? Who's the guy in
governor of
Kentucky that I'm thinking of?
Pennsylvania.
I
Yeah,
get them all confused. It's yeah.
I
Anyway,
don't
just
remember. Guy from
politicians so much.
Kentucky. I
Wish
wanted
I
Josh
would
Shapiro. I
know the
like
names.
Josh Shapiro.
What's his name from Kentucky? God damn it. Oh
Yeah,
well, I don't know. But yeah, there's a couple of people.
I don't
They got
remember.
Mayor Pete, but he's too short. Uh,
I hope that Josh Shapiro takes another run because I like Josh
mm,
Shapiro. I think he's done good things for the state of
mm,
Pennsylvania. He is well liked
mm.
at a bipartisan level. Like there are Republicans that appreciate what he's done for business in the state of Pennsylvania. He has I believe he's been friendly towards like union workers, stuff like that. So he has bipartisan support. I didn't think that Tim Walz was necessarily a bad candidate. I don't think he's a bad guy or anything like
Mm.
that. I just would have liked to see Josh Shapiro
I mean, what was
take a
they were
stab at
saying he
that.
was you know, she was worried he was going to overshadow her or something, and that sort of thing, which
I don't know, but hey, man,
par for
that's
the course, really.
just
Yeah.
what's it about? Is it about
No.
fixing the country and saving the thing, or is it about your spotlight? Which again, Donald Trump is now the president. There is
Yeah.
no one that cares more about the spotlight than that guy. So I just have to. These are the qualifying statements I
Oh
have
yeah.
to
I
make.
mean,
I
it's
just have to throw that
I
out there. I'm
continue to
not.
be like, fully,
We're 52 minutes in.
yeah.
At 1 hour and I'm busting out the MAGA hat. How great was I wanted to open up the show as Trump in
No.
my I don't know if you see me in my Trump
Yes.
costume. I wanted to open up
Yes.
the show as Trump,
Can you combine that with a
but I
hot
thought
dog?
that might
Maybe
have
wear
been
a
a
hot dog
little
suit.
too soon.
Oh man, you use a Trump dog
I did wear a hot dog somewhere. Yeah, I did. No, but I
with the hair. Yeah. Maybe a
I'll
little
have to look into
McDonald's.
that. Yeah, we'll have to look into that. Yeah. Yeah. Gavin, Andrew had a great point. He said that next time I do Trump, I should also wear the
Yeah.
hot dog
It's like a
costume that Kyle has.
yeah. They're
I
both
should
made a.
That's a great idea, honestly. But I was going to open the show. Go ahead. No, I think
Oh,
I
I mean, I
like
was just gonna say
that.
they're
Where are you
both
going
like
with that?
made of lips and assholes or whatever, something like that. I hadn't really fully formed it. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I thought you were gonna say they were
Oh
like
yeah.
both made of Big Macs
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
nothing Trump
Like
eats is just
yeah,
fast
they're
food, and then
both
somehow
yeah.
we'll find out tomorrow
Yeah,
that
they're
like
both
they're
like
putting
tubes of
McDonald's into the hot dog.
processed meat. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed on that. Agreed on that. Have you seen this unfollowing epidemic that's happening on social media? Could you find a more fickle and vapid and useless thing to do than to say, if you voted for Trump, get off my
Yeah,
Facebook
it is.
timeline? Could you find more of an American solution
It's
to a
so
problem?
like. I mean, I saw I literally saw like people like getting into fights with people, like going on social media, like getting on there and then
On
and
social
then
media.
fighting with them and then blocking them and all that kind of stuff, or like and all the of course the delete me now and all this stuff.
Hmm.
And 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 I'm just like,
Are
like
you on
this is
right?
like, dude, that's
Are you
what
on
they
Threads?
want. Like they want you to do that. Like they
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
and
That's
but I
exactly
mean
what
at
I
the same time,
said.
like, this is the thing is that and I'm trying to be more. The last time Trump won, I was not very I wasn't very like attuned to the way that like ideologues, or like particularly
Hmm.
like true believers, like how they deal with like things. And I'm trying to be more sort of
Yep.
understanding now, and sort of like these people, like
Hmm.
this is a huge travesty to them, right? It's like they're scared, they're afraid,
Yes.
they're
Yes.
um
Hmm.
they're terrified. They're also dealing with like immense cognitive dissonance, one in the rejection of their, like the broad rejection of their ideals, and two, yeah, their candidate, and then the
Their candidate. Yep.
personification of their ideals, right? In so many ways. But then also they're
Hmm.
dealing with like the shift, the right shift, all of these people who Hispanics are coming out 55% for Trump or whatever it was. A shift among black men. Like these things are, that's severe
Hmm.
cognitive dissonance. Uh, and so to have that going on, like I get that, like they're trying to be like they're trying to feel safe by surrounding themselves only with people who share their views, and like that's a very like
Hmm.
ideology based system type solution, is that like there's this really bad thing happen out there, and now we have to like we have to circle the wagons, and we have to like make the bar to entry very high, like you can't get in,
It's
it's
also
very
probably
like
a
fear induced,
sure.
and
It,
it's unfortunate because
yeah.
so the best thing to do is to like, if you're like a pragmatist like myself, which is what I would call a centrist, right? If you're a centrist, you should start calling yourself pragmatist, number one.
Hmm.
But number two, if you're like a pragmatist, you're a centrist, like don't engage with these people, like don't like let them tire themselves out, let them like they're gonna block people, they're gonna delete people, they're gonna not talk to people, they're gonna rant and rave, they're gonna be really
Hmm.
upset, and you have to just understand it, and you can't be like dismissive. Like that was my problem when I was when Trump was
Right.
elected the first time. I was like,
Right.
not a big deal. Nothing gonna happen. He's not gonna destroy the world. Stop being crazy. Nobody likes to be told that they're just being crazy. So, so it's at the end of the day, like
No.
at the end of the day,
No.
like I understand it better. Like I wish I hate. Like I think it is
Hmm.
extremely counterproductive. But I understand what they're doing, and so it doesn't like piss me off to that degree. Hey, can
Hmm.
we take a break for like 10 seconds? I got to grab a Tums. I'm like dying. Okay, hold on. I'll be right back.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Andrew, be right back. Um, he just had to go get a Tums. He wasn't feeling good. But he's gonna come right back. Do you want me to mark where this is in the recording? Okay, it's at 58, 58 minutes. Are you feeling okay?
All right, sorry. This is what happens. Oh yeah, yeah.
Are
This is what
are you
happens when
feeling
you get
okay?
old, man. I got fucking heartburn all the time. I got Tums in every room. I got Tums in my bag.
Oh jeez. I get
Oh,
I
yeah.
get acid
It's like
reflux
killing me, man.
bad like that.
Yeah. So I was like
Yeah,
talking to you,
it's
and I was
bad.
like,
Okay.
oh god, I'm gonna fucking die. Oh, no. And also, I found my coffee.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
No,
Okay, I'm. Oh, good. Yeah, I marked that down so Gavin can
awesome.
just
Thanks.
slice that out real quick. We're back, everybody. Sorry, Andrew, we had to take a quick
Had to get
break, but we
coffee
are
and
back.
various
Um,
stimulants.
so, uh, yeah, right, yes. I think you made an interesting point. With the whole concept that now people are kind of gathering in their groups. Um, you said as an ideological thing. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Do you think that it's also? I think also part of that is it's also probably a
Sure.
biological response. It's a tribal response. Like it is for safety. You get near the people that would protect you. Yeah. So listen, you are kind of right about that. I am doing my because listen, I'm not
Yeah.
thrilled at
I mean,
all with a
yeah.
Trump victory. I'm not thrilled. So I think it is an important point that you make, like to
Yeah.
to empathize with people to try to understand, because it is a phase that it's gonna happen, and then the dust is gonna settle, and people are going to figure out ways in which they can sort of pick up the pieces. And I hope that the result of this is stronger community in general. You would hope, right, that people could take the outcome of this and they could
Mhm.
use it to try to build something real. Not even in the sense, in multiple ways, I guess, in the sense that you could build a
Mhm.
coalition that could win you an election next time around, but also to build a community that's something meaningful that lasts
Mhm.
longer than that
Yeah,
election
I
that
mean,
you're
I
trying to
I
win.
think there's um you sort of have to. I guess what it is that it comes down to the way that you change people's minds is always a like personal relationship type thing. There's no
Yep.
argument you're going to make. There's no like piece of data that, you know what I mean? There's no like we have this myth, we have this like myth
Yeah.
of like the um like this it's like this myth of like there's going to be some kind of big event that makes you like realize, right? Because that's how it's often written in, like um to go back to the olden times when you were very young, when you were a young lad, there was like Dennis Miller like
Hmm.
switched to the
Yeah.
Republican Party in the wake of 9/11, right? Because 9/11 made him a Republican or something, right? And
Hmm.
and uh, people
Yeah.
will people will say like, well, when I got canceled, that's when I stopped being a Democrat, or when October 7th made me stop being like a progressive,
Right.
and in some sense, like there are a lot of like things like that where there's like a moment where it happens, but that moment where it happens, there's a
Hmm.
huge long build up to that always, that you don't really think about, right? That doesn't like it's not really there. Like if you are changed by some particular situation, like then you probably always had like little bits of doubt. You had little doubts about the thing. Otherwise, you would explain the
Sure.
situation away, right? If you were still like just like deep inside the
Hmm.
ideology, you would use the thought stopping mechanisms that the ideology had taught you to explain away all these problems, right? Like, so when, right, like,
Yeah.
you, you would
What
just be
Greg?
like, oh, yeah, that's like Trump, like people who went Democrat after Trump got elected or something, right? It's like, well, no, probably you had some problems with things before that, but you just didn't have any way to like vocalize them, or
Yep.
like any way to sort of like foment them into a real thing. And that's the thing, is that like all of these things are interpersonal,
Yeah.
so you're never going to change anyone's mind. You're never going to like move the needle in a real way without personal interaction with people, which is, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. and and to say there's another thing that's being said a lot, to say that people uh and we sort of briefly discussed before, but the idea that there's only one or two reasons why somebody would have voted for Trump and that both of
Yeah,
them are inherently evil is just so silly. Because, like you said, if you were going to make that switch, then there were already, like you said, there were already seeds of doubt. There was already something there, and then there was a tipping point, and then you go, okay, well now I can no longer give a Democrat my vote. I have to give
yeah,
it to Donald. It just um yeah, it's just it's really frustrating. Like and I understand why people are doing this, but in the aftermath of this election, nobody's learned because we're just pointing at the other half of the country and we're assuming things about them that we have no basis
yeah,
to really assume.
yeah.
It's
It's
exactly what we
a
do to each other every time.
it's all part of the sort of ideological uh, operation. The way that ideology based
Yeah.
system works, the way that like our dumb two-party system works. There's this assumption that if you don't vote my way or you don't believe what I believe, you must be evil or you must be stupid. Like you must be too dumb to know better or you
Yeah.
must be too evil to care. And that's not that's not the case. People are just getting by with doing the best they can with the knowledge that they have. And this is, I think, a unique problem for progressives because they otherwise, and particularly like wokists, they otherwise would preach the kind of uh like internal understanding of a different group that they're not applying in this situation. Like they just refuse. They're just like projecting these
Mm-hmm.
ideas into the people who are voting for Trump. Like, oh, it's because white supremacy and because they want to maintain white supremacy. And but it's like there's no like real
Mm-hmm.
attempt to go out and like understand like the actual like culture of people who are either the hardcore Trumpers or the people who just were like, yeah, you didn't do it, like you didn't do it, so we went back to Trump, like so
Right.
that's the yeah that's the sort of like lack of understanding. And I mean, it's also true of Republicans. I mean, they and the hardcore conservatives, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
oh, they just want to have abortions, like they just want to have sex without any consequences, like but
Right.
but there's
Yeah.
also like
Yeah.
yeah, I mean yeah, I mean
No,
abortions is
not really.
a great illustration of the whole thing,
Yeah.
like they like
No.
pro-lifers, like they're like that whole business where they're like, if you were really pro-life, you would believe this shit. Well, no,
Yes.
it's
Yeah. Right. What was it? The one thing? Some guy. I mean, it was on Tim
uh,
Pool's show. So right off the bat, you just right. Exactly.
yeah,
That's exactly the
I know it's
reaction you
heavy.
should have. You should go, oh, okay, and then you just press play. And this guy was like, the left is literally a death cult because everything they do involves death. And I'm like, dude, you need to get off the mic because this is not the thing that makes.
Everybody's a
But it's
goddamn
not
death cult,
about
right? Like they're
convincing
the death
anybody. It's
cult.
not about.
And this Islam death cult.
It's not. It's not about. It's not about convincing anybody of anything anymore. It's not the game that anybody's
Yeah,
playing.
I mean that's
I don't know. I guess Trump convinced
yeah,
some people, but I also don't think that that was necessarily as much of a result of him as that was as much of a
yeah.
result
I
of
mean,
the
I think
current
there's
situation we were in.
I think this is one of those things where it's like uh, I think Democrats, I think particularly hardcore progressives have this idea that Trump's like policies, right? Not the fact that he's like a cult leader, right? But like his policies
Mm-hmm.
are just these really really far right policies, like far right, which is another term that has lost its meaning by overuse. Yeah, it's completely lost all meaning, and
All
so
meaning.
they have no there's
All
no
meaning.
gauge, there's no real gauge of like what it is, and so it's like when something like
Right.
60 or 70% or of the country like supports like deporting illegal aliens, right, or whatever we call them now, undocumented migrants or whatever, right? Like people
Hmm.
let Latino people in particular, who are naturalized U.S. citizens, are not fans of like people who come in not through the legal channels. Like, there's this like,
Hmm.
there's this sense, and it was Batya Ungard Sargon who kept saying like Trump is the more
Yeah.
moderate candidate on a lot of these issues. Like the secure border thing is moderate. Like the economy thing, like that's an important issue. Like most people really do think that there should
Hmm.
be some like restrictions on abortion, like in like the third trimester and things like
Hmm.
that, right? And like
Right.
there's this is like the median like stance on a lot of things, and but they think that it is this far right crazy thing, right? um and it's like, well, no. So
Hmm.
the people who would move from either side to the other, they were just like, oh, this is like the median thing, and you guys are over here talking about like what, abortion the whole time? Like or you're doing
Yeah, it's an interesting.
it's
That's an
yeah.
interesting thing to think about. Yeah, that not in his rhetoric, but in the actual.
Well, his rhetoric is yeah, his rhetoric's
Yeah,
part of the
right.
problem too,
In
and
his
his
rhetoric,
that's his
not
his whole shtick
right.
is making these like
But
Barnum statements, right? These
yeah.
things where it's like he says this crazy shit, and then he lets
Hmm.
the media and social media and everybody interpret them whichever way, depending on their pre-existing idea of him.
Hmm.
And so whatever he says, it just sounds crazy,
Right.
you know what I mean? And then it's he's just kind of rambling, like the thing with the bloodbath thing, right? Like this was the thing that talking about my hide or whatever. Like he's talking about he's
Oh.
talking about protectionist tariffs, and he says the thing about like it's going to be a bloodbath for the auto industry or something like that. But he didn't say it quite like it's going to be a bloodbath for the auto industry. He's like, it's going to be a bloodbath if I don't win. And
No,
he's
he always
yeah,
says
and
things
because it's just
in the
coming as
worst
just opens his
possible
mouth,
way.
words come out. He's like a barely trained large language model. Like he's just like, you know what I mean? he's just he's like a brown noise machine, you know what I mean? He just emits like vaguely yeah, vaguely conservative
A
talking points.
brown noise
And then
machine.
and Kamala's like a pink noise machine, right? It's like she was just, I mean, god, she was worse somehow. And he's like, but he says that shit, and then what do they focus on? The bloodbath thing. And it's, oh, we had this whole stupid meta conversation about what it
Yeah.
meant and how he's like inciting violence and all, and he's far right and he's going to kill us all. And then it's like, dude, maybe talk about like protectionism, because that shit sucks.
Right. Maybe
Like
talk
talk
about
about the
it. Talk
actual
about the
thing that he
actual. Yeah.
said. And then what happened like 2 months later, Biden came out and was like, yeah, we're going to do that tariff thing where we, tariffs on electric vehicles from, that are assembled in
Right.
Mexico or whatever. Oh, you mean the Trump thing that he said with the bloodbath thing? What? Dude,
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that's very frustrating for me as someone that is getting a degree in media, I'm surrounded by mostly progressive people again, who I like. But the one frustrating thing to me is whenever the misinformation conversation gets brought up, and it's always, oh, well, it's uneducated people and they're not going to the right places and they're just conspiracy theorists. And listen, that is a part of the problem for sure. But whenever I sit in that room and I'm the only one that brings up, what about the Charlottesville out of context thing? What about the tariff bloodbath out of context thing? What about all of the articles? What about the Steele dossier? What about the Mullen report? What about the fake thing that you guys did about Russia for 6 years and you convinced nobody, and then it turns out the whole thing was a lie? So I sit in these rooms, and the fact that I am the only one that brings up all of these times that the media has demonstrably failed the American people in all of these tasks that they're supposed to be performing. And then, oh, well, the misinformation, it just gets chalked up to dumb Republicans who don't know what they're, and if
Right.
only they
If only
had the
they'd read all the
information
books that
we
I've
had,
read.
then
If only they've
misinformation
if
would be
only they
gone.
only
If only
read
they
my,
had
like,
read,
you know,
right?
they didn't know that Biden. They were like, oh, Biden's totally fine. And like, if you paid attention, yeah, if you followed
Right, lying for
literally one,
Biden.
like conservative conservative news,
Speech.
Freudian slip there, news account, right? This, those
Right.
nude conservative accounts that are, um,
Yeah.
a conservative news account,
Yeah,
like,
right.
you would have seen all of the stuff and you would have been like, oh my God, man, this might be like kind of fucked up. Like he might be like really deteriorating.
Yeah.
And
And
then they
and
just hit
it's
it.
just, oh
Like, and
dear.
I think, yeah.
Oh, we just went away. We're back. I think it's the Wi-Fi in here. It's not
Yeah,
good.
it's like they hid
It's
all of
just
that stuff, and they was,
the
and
fact that
that's the thing that, like, and I've
Mhm,
said this before, like in Substack things and stuff like that, that like Kamala like represents this kind of like
mhm.
21st century like authoritarianism. Like, it's like the difference between like 1984 and Brave New World or something, which I will admit I've not read either of those things. But like the idea is like,
Sure.
it's a difference between like Trump being like an old school like authoritarian, and like her being like the face of this like new kind of
Right.
authoritarianism, where we use the term misinformation to like silence people, and we collude with social media companies to silence people, and we use science, we use activist
Right.
scientists to push, to push our like science, our ideas as science. Like, that kind of stuff is like creepo stuff. You know
Right.
what I mean? And it's Dick Cheney shit is what it is.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
they don't want, they so there's
Mhm.
that element of like of authoritarianism there that is, it's it's there, and it's scary. Like, it's the fact that like unpaid bureaucrats have been running the country for 8 months at this point, or longer. Like, what? That's
Yeah.
weird. that's that's not okay. And uh, yeah, the misinformation thing for me is like a big
Yeah.
thing where I'm like, that's a creepy thing you're doing.
It's
It's a creepy thing you're doing to
it's really
like
frustrating.
silence people. The
Yeah.
whole point of free speech is that you can say any kind of dumb shit. And the way to fight back is, as fire has taught me so well, the way to fight back is with more speech, not with like
Mhm.
calling it misinformation and
Mhm.
like censoring it somehow. But that's what they want to do. And that shit
Right.
sounds like authoritarianism. And people don't like that.
Yeah, it's no, they don't. And it's just the whole thing is frustrating. It feels like the misinformation conversation is similar to, I think, the abortion conversation, where we're just talking about it in the wrong context. Like, to me, it seems like abortion is not as much of a legislative issue so much as maybe it is a cultural issue. Um, in a sense, that's not even a perfect
Mm,
thing, but you could make the argument that there could be
mm,
a cultural discussion around abortion that's not really being had, and there's a
mm,
hyper focus on legislation, which you can't legislate away people's feelings or their religion
mm,
or their morality or anything like that. So it just seems kind of tough. The misinformation thing seems like it is the consequence of, people are saying, oh, we just need more information. um, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that
yeah.
there's so much information out there. If that's all that was, there's
Mm,
plenty of great information out there. If that's all that was required, why do we have the misinformation problem
Right.
if it's not a trust thing, if it's not a media
Mhm.
literacy thing, if it's not all of those things? And I just get frustrated that my progressive peers in media just don't seem willing or capable to step up and say, hey, we've been fucking up
Mm.
a lot. The industry that we want to go into has been fucking up a lot, and they do have our biases. So how do we
Yeah.
make sure that we do not make those same mistakes? And that conversation just, and listen, if I was surrounded by conservatives and
Yeah.
Fox News was on thing, I'd be saying the exact same thing. It would be slightly different. It would be, you all
Yeah.
need to just go into entertainment now and not do
Yeah.
news, because that's all
Well, the whole
Fox
thing
is. It's
is, I
just
mean,
fun.
like
Um,
MSNBC is just, I mean, it's the politicotainment complex. I love to say, that's my catchphrase for, you know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, it's like the
oh
politicotainment
yeah,
complex. Like it's just,
yeah.
I mean, like I regret, like, I regret sort of contributing to it in that I was one of those like progressives back when, back again in the olden times when you were a young lad. I was one of those progressives who like got all my news from the Daily Show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like, we turned it into this like
Right, right.
this it's like the debate night in America and whatever. And it's
Mhm.
it's not that. Like it's supposed to be like understanding problems and trying to figure out how to solve them and like coming up with solutions and testing or understand, debating those solutions and whatever. It's not supposed to be like a fucking SmackDown.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like SmackDown's fine, do it, whatever. You like wrestling, awesome. But
No.
like I like football.
No.
It's great. But like that's very different from like how we should be like operating our political system. And it's, the funniest thing is
Right.
like, I was like, my mom's like a super hardcore progressive, super hates Trump. Like, and
Mhm.
I was talking to her the day after, and she was, just real pissed at like the Democrats for like screwing up the election. And I was like, wow, this is, she just doesn't
Mhm.
otherwise seem, she was otherwise like pretty much cool. Like she was like, like, yeah, it sucks, but like, the worst part is that the
Yeah.
Democrats really screwed up and blah 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 blah. And I was like, well, it's all right. She's kind of cool, And then all of a sudden it dawned on me. I was like, my mom was like a religious MSNBC watcher, but she started just doing streaming. She got rid of cable,
Mm.
no MSNBC. I was like, oh, like, yeah, see, like when you get away from the thing.
Mm.
Sorry, mom, if you see this,
Yeah.
I love you, but
When you don't microdose, well, there is a thing. Is like Shane Gillis has a really funny joke about Fox News. I think it applies to MSNBC. Is he goes like, my dad watches Fox News every night until he can't. Like he watches until he's so angry that Mr. Potato Head is trans now that he has to like shut off the TV and go to bed. And I think it's the same thing if you watch MSNBC. If Rachel Maddow just tells you that Donald
yeah,
Trump is having lunch with Putin every 5 seconds, like yeah, it's if
yeah,
you stop
yeah, macro
microdosing
dosing even,
anger
yeah,
and
yeah,
fear, you get a right, you do get a more of an
yeah, and
idea
I'm like,
of
yeah,
maybe what's going on.
it's funny because if I watch any of either of those things for more than like 10 seconds, like I can't watch it anymore because I'm just like, oh God, come on.
I,
Except for maybe like
the only
Gutfeld, I guess, like because Cat
the
tends to
only
kill him.
one
Like, all right.
yeah, I was gonna say the only people that I can do are like some of the people on Fox, because again, they're just having
Yeah, that
fun.
is,
Like this
yeah,
is not
yeah.
news. It should
It's,
not really be
yeah,
taken as news. It's just more fun. It's just more
yeah,
fun to do that. I mean, the first thing we did whenever we got to Chicago for Bridge USA was we put on Fox News in the hotel because we were like, we just needed a quick entertainment, a
yeah.
quick dose of something before we go bridge
Yeah,
build.
it's like it's more like they're just like, yeah, like all of the women anchors are pretty, and like everybody's like yeah, and all the dudes are like,
Right, the Fox News babe,
this
the
business and
blonde.
strong jaws, and we're anymore,
Right. Yeah, right. Right.
like, yeah, they're just kind of like, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
there's
Sh-
uh litter boxes in bathrooms and shit. You know what I mean? Like, you don't believe, you don't believe that. Like, you don't
Right.
really
Yeah.
think there's a
Yeah.
fucking litter box in any fucking bathroom. You're just saying it because it's
Yeah.
crazy shit.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Bastion. Right. It is the bastion of manly men and and tough guys and truthful everything is Greg
Yeah.
Gutfeld and Jesse
Yeah.
Waters. That's who I think of whenever I think of the bastion of defending. I just you know what I mean? It's just funny. It's like they don't even have they don't have anybody. Who do they have anymore? They
Yeah.
don't have
I
anybody
I don't know.
at Fox.
Yeah,
Like
they
they
had
had
Tucker. Yeah.
Carlson. They had
Yeah.
Tucker. That was all they had was Tucker, and they lost Tucker. And I
Yeah.
couldn't even tell you. Anyway, we're gonna wrap up here
Oh,
because I
yeah.
have to get on the road. Um, but I guess we'll do some concluding things. It's been a while since you've been here. Um, with everything that has now happened, what gives you hope for the
It's a funny thing
future?
to ask a guy who says he's a nihilist. But it's
Yeah, right. That's
yeah. Yeah. Oh,
that's
well,
flipping it
the
on you.
void has been looking less dark. Um, it's it doesn't stare into me anymore.
Right.
It really doesn't. I mean, that's the thing. What I think is the number one. I think I've been happy to see the level of like level-headedness um, in response to the
Hmm.
Trump win. Maybe not level-headedness is not the best word, but like a degree of like just not just the shrill kind of freak out that it was last time. And that is, yeah, yeah.
There's an
There's
appropriate
more of a
level of quiet.
like oh god damn it, you know what I mean? Like there's a more that sort of thing. And so that gives
Right.
me a bit of hope. I think Trump did do something interesting in that he did disrupt those sort of voting blocks. Like he did disrupt that kind of thing. Like he did make gains with black men at least.
Yeah.
He did make gains with like with Latinos. Like that is that's an important thing that they're going to have to like contend with in the next, the next 4 years and the next 10 years. Um and I have hope
Hmm.
um that we will somehow come around to the pragmatic a more pragmatic system in my lifetime. No, but I think that people are tired of social media being divisive. They're tired of that kind of stuff, and they they want to connect with people again. And and I think that there's also like there's just 20, what is it, like 80% of social media posts are done by like 20% of people, right? Like, and
Yep. I think it's
yeah,
crazier. I think it's
10%.
90%
Yeah,
of the
it's some
content is
insane
generated by
thing like that. Yeah.
10% of
And
or
it's just,
it's something
there are just
crazy
so
like that.
many people out there.
Yeah.
And I think, and I've said this to you before, like it's difficult, like as someone who is bringing a message that is like, you should go talk to your friend on the porch. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's, it's difficult to like make make
Right.
progress,
Yeah.
get a bunch of followers and everything when you're saying something like, so um sort of like not controversial in a way, but that is considered so controversial, right? It's
Hmm.
like this is like it's like I'm spouting some kind of like, like I'm like the most this is like the idea of centrism as being like the most dangerous thing in the world. And it's like, no, we're just talking about like thinking about things and maybe like
Yeah.
talking about issues and figuring out like the best way to solve them, but realizing it's hard to solve things like is right. And that's, but there's so many
Yeah.
people out there,
Yeah.
I think, they're not on social media, or they're not right. Like, And there's so many people like, like the Rogan podcast thing was a big thing, right? And progressives are laughing at that and they're saying, oh, it's ridiculous, you know what I mean? But it's like Joe Rogan talks to 15 million, a lot of them, people every week, and he's talking to, the kind of dudes that are like blue collar dudes, but they're smart. Like there's, not that blue collar people aren't smart, but they're like
Right.
they're interested and they're engaged people. That's the thing. They're like smart. This is, I'm not phrasing this
Mm-hmm.
right, so maybe edit it around. The point is that blue collar, like there's blue collar dudes out that are interested and engaged in this stuff, and they don't have the official credentials like college, like degrees and that sort of thing. But they're smart people,
Right.
just like anyone else, and they're engaged, and there are
Mm-hmm.
people who are engaged with that kind of thing. And I think Joe Rogan, for example, is, and I don't even listen to Joe. I barely listen to I barely listen to podcasts, right? But always yours, right? Um,
Yeah.
but there's,
Yeah.
yeah, this is one. This is the best one.
Right.
And
This is
but
the only one he watches.
it's like there's all these there's people out there who want, they want that kind of deep discussion of these like interesting issues and ideas and stuff like that, and they don't just want
Mm-hmm.
the like ideological system bullshit, like this is, you've got it. They don't want symbolism. They want, right, they don't want symbolism, they want pragmatism.
Mm-hmm.
They want that, they want talking about issues, they want deep discussions of issues. And that is the key. Those people, those people, come with me, rise up. And by rise up I mean go talk to your friends.
Yeah.
Right, go talk to your family, go to
Yeah.
fucking Thanksgiving.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Go to Thanksgiving and
yeah,
don't talk about politics
right,
with your
yeah,
uncle. There's more to this life
right.
than
And also,
trade and
and
the
be like,
border.
yeah, build your
How
relationships with those
that's the
people,
revolution now.
and those things, like, well, those, that's the kind of,
Mm-hmm.
like, that's the most serious. Like, this is how I got to where I am. Was there was some, I was a hardcore progressive, but there was some point that I was like, I realized that I was like, I either had to like stop being friends with all of these really great people who were like Christians or Republicans or whatever. I had to stop being
Mm-hmm.
friends with them and abandon them, or I had to change my ideas somehow. I had to change the way I thought about the world somehow, like to accommodate the fact that they really were good people. And I chose to change my thought about the world to accommodate the fact that they were good people, because the fact was that they were good people. Right. So right, like if something's telling
Mm-hmm.
you that like
Yeah.
your uncle is like sucks because he doesn't vote like you, like, but otherwise he's a cool guy, maybe there's something wrong with the ideology that
Yeah.
you follow.
Yeah, I mean, Claire Ashcraft has that similar story that she's told on this show, I think once or twice, where
Yeah,
that was the same that she was with her dad. She was like,
yeah,
there had to be a better way to do it,
right,
to
yeah.
engage
and
with people
and
that you
you'll
disagree
bring
with.
them
Yeah.
to,
All
we'll
right.
bring them in, we'll suck them in, but in a fun way, in a good way. All right.
Yes.
Hey, thank you for having me,
All right,
guys.
Andrew.
No, that
Oh no,
was
I didn't mean to cut you off. Do you have
that
another
was all. I
thought?
think I made my pitch. I think I made my solid pitch for that. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
I think so. Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah. All right.
Thanks
Well,
for having
listen.
me, man.
Thank you for coming back. We really appreciate it. I appreciate the support. You've been good to us.
Love it.
You're always
Yeah,
reposting episodes, and we appreciate that. Thank you for the
yeah, man.
insights and for everything. And
Yeah, yeah. Love to come
we'll be
back
in touch.
if you're down to have me. So anytime.
Of course. Yeah,
Awesome. All
we
right.
would love to have you back. Yeah, we'll get something set up.
Cool. Bye, y'all.
All right. Bye, everybody.